Let me help you avoid the worst mistakes I've made on the farm by dealing with one broad concept or perspective. You know, farmers are a unique breed of people sometimes. We can be wildly optimistic while also being wildly negative. My most costly mistakes on the farm have been about issues that I've been overly optimistic about and then wildly pessimistic about. Hey, pigs! Like thinking that the Mangalitsa pigs would be an outstanding addition to our farm. That one cost me several $1,000s and set the farm's growth back by several years. And over the years, I've seen people make a lot of mistakes with pigs because they were overly optimistic. Like thinking that they could raise pigs on pasture without grain and save a lot of money in the process. And then I've seen people half-starve pigs because they thought they could raise them entirely on grass and then become wildly pessimistic, saying pigs can't be raised on pasture alone. In this video, let's talk about balancing those extremes as we talk about marketing our products, and let's talk about the issue with cover crops. Two things that I'm trying to assess today. One of the questions I'm often asked is, how do we market our product? Can you do a video on guiding us how to market our product? I've avoided the marketing issue, and we'll talk about that in a moment. It's very dry. It's supposed to rain in a couple days. So let's first evaluate our cover crop fields, what we can plant. We'll talk about the optimism and the pessimism and the realism with planting cover crops, and then we'll get into the marketing issues. I just pulled up to the part of the farm that we just broadly reference as south of Dowdle Road, primarily because that's Dowdle Road and we're south of it. But in this 30-acre pasture that you see behind me here, it is some of the worst performing pasture on the farm. So earlier this year when I purchased the new no-till drill, I thought that it would be an incredible tool to help us plant more cover crops out here in these pastures. Between my dad and me, we spent several $1,000s for more cover crops for my pigs, for his cows, and the few cows that I was finishing out. Unfortunately, I was overly optimistic. I think there's this perception sometimes that things are better on our farm than they really are. Many times people see these wonderful images and videos of pigs grazing on our cover crops, and the pigs relish it. Everything looks lush and beautiful, and it is. But everything only looks lush and beautiful at certain times of the year. And if people are overly optimistic and only see the benefit that we've had of growing our cover crops and how much we've replenished the soil on certain parts of the farm with pigs, cows, and cover crops, it can look wildly wonderful. And it is. And that's where the pessimism, negativity, demoralization, depression, whatever you want to call it, sets in. We've been in drought now for several months, and the sorghum Sudan grass looks good here. But if you look right here, there's nothing growing. It's not always rainbows and sunshine. As I walk through these pastures, I'm just trying to figure out and evaluate if it's worth planting any cover crops out here. And it's difficult because you want to overlook the optimism, overcome the pessimism, and be realistic. This little 5-acre section is on top of a hill. I did plant it with cover crops, and we got fairly decent results. You can see sorghum Sudan grass there. You can see sorghum Sudan grass here that's just 8 or 9 inches tall. It started regrowing and then drought hit again. Other areas you can see the tall growth in the back there. And then in other areas like this, where we fed some hay this past year, there's been a little more soil moisture, and you can see a little clump. You see a clump of sorghum Sudan around where we fed the hay, about a 6-foot diameter out from where the hay bale was. It's pretty cool. There's more soil moisture and soil life to help feed that sorghum Sudan grass. And out here it's gotten pretty spotty germination. This field goes all the way to those trees over there, and then it goes down that tree line to about that corner right there, and there's a fence that runs over. In terms of planting cover crops out here, there are several options. To be honest with you, I think one of the best would be cereal rye. If we plant it now in early September, if we get soil moisture, I think it'll perform fairly well, but that's a big if. And if we planted this 30 acres, we could eliminate our hay usage this year. It cost us about $40 to the acre in seed cost. We could add a little fixation of Alonzo clover, kindling red clover, and Alsike clover and get good results, I think. They perform well in wet, acidic fields, but I don't know what to expect out of the germination. Plus, if we have a wet fall, this field will be a muddy mess. I've got to balance the optimism and the pessimism. It'd do a lot of good in soil health. It would eliminate our hay cost if we got a good stand over this entire 30 acres. That assumes that I could get it planted. But then the pessimism jumps in and it's like, well, we planted 15 acres of this sorghum Sudan grass and it did not perform nearly as well as I thought it would. So what I'm looking to do at the moment is figure out a game plan. And I don't think just planting cereal rye is going to be the best option. I have yet to get good results broadcasting cereal rye on a pasture. Frankly, I'm not going to be out here disking this entire field up to get it going. So here's what I'm thinking. We'll plant a little bit of clover, a little bit of daikon radish, and some cereal rye on this 5 acres. We've got a better shot of trying to get it to germinate and reduce our cost and give it a trial run. And sometimes we try to scale up too big. We don't have our system perfected yet, and that optimism runs loose and it's not always realistic. Because of that, I think what I'm going to do, some cereal rye, daikon radish, and if I can find a balanza clover, we'll probably add that in there as well. And while it won't eliminate our hay costs this year, what it should do is, in addition, it should supplement the hay usage so that the cattle perform much better in that January to February time frame. And if it fails miserably, rather than wasting $2,000 or $3,000 on this full 30-acre field, we've tried a little bit more variety on this 5-acre field and limited our costs. That said, directly behind the camera there's a pond down there, and I think that I may grow some daikons down there as well because I can irrigate it. We'll just have to play that one by ear. But here's the thing that's really funny. We can run from optimism to pessimism to optimism even again. After we planted this sorghum Sudan grass, it was turning drought tolerant. We got 1 grazing on 5 acres and 2 grazings on 10 acres of this sorghum Sudan grass. And it benefited the soil, though not as much as we had hoped. My dad said it'll still help the soil, right? I said yes. So that's kind of the hopeful look, but it would not have benefited the soil as much as if we'd gotten much better germination. It helped some. The late spring and early summer was dry. We had a little bit of rain mid-July, and then August and September have been absolutely dry. Those early grazings that we had in June and July saved us more money than if it had germinated really well in a normal year, and here's why. During that drought, people were feeding hay for about 40 days. They're already feeding hay again. So far, we have not had to feed hay this summer, and that's what has saved us so much money. We can be overly optimistic, we can be overly pessimistic, we can be optimistic and pessimistic again, but if we're not careful, we can easily neglect the realistic option, and that was that the sorghum Sudan grass saved us money this year. I've got to check the water and the feed for the pigs, and then I'm going to head on. The other thing I've never managed to get quite a grasp on is marketing our pigs. Probably the most common request that I get for a video that I have not done is on marketing. The reason for that is I oscillate back and forth between wild optimism and pessimism. I haven't gotten it all figured out yet, and quite frankly, I don't want to mislead anybody. That's certainly the most challenging part of trying to do a small-scale regenerative farm, especially with pigs. You can set up a cattle operation that's profitable, that sells weaned calves into a commodity system. You can't really do that with pork. Unless you can market directly with your pork, you'll lose your shirt. And I don't particularly look all that great without a shirt on. And the funny thing is some people make marketing look incredibly easy. I don't know that anybody's a better master at marketing than Joel Salatin. He makes it look easy, and he is naturally gifted for that. I'm not. And so part of my predicament right now, I got these 19 or 20 pigs here that are weaned and just about ready to go on pasture. In 5 or 6 months, I'll be bringing them back from the processor. I've got another group of pigs that'll be ready to go to the processor in 2 to 3 months. Plus, I've got 8 piglets that I'm about to wean and 10 gilts that have been exposed to Ferdinand, our boar. Depending on the conception rates and mothering rates and everything else with those gilts, I may have anywhere from 20 up to 85 or 100 piglets from those that'll be ready for market in 9 to 10 months. And the thought of selling that pork is a bit overwhelming. In the last year or so, our YouTube channel's gotten 30, maybe 35 million views. And this spring, I said, you know what? I can sell a bunch of pigs if I ship. Seeing these piglets run around and playful always lifts my spirits. From that group of pigs this spring, I sold 10, maybe 12 of them as custom slaughter. Then I had another 8 or 10, maybe 12 processed for retail sales so that I could ship it. And so somehow I've either got to grow our local sales or our shipping sales. Right or wrong, I assumed that I could ship more pigs than I could. But figuring out the logistics of that, while also the logistics of pig farming and work and family life, not to mention the PhD program I'm in, and figuring out the logistics of all that has been a little difficult. In fact, the order that I'm shipping today, I was going to ship 3 weeks ago, but I had some packing issues and then dry ice issues. Fortunately, that customer has been very gracious, patient, and understanding. Everything's updated on the inventory, but for some reason, you can't find the products on the website. It's wildly frustrating. The host that my website currently uses is designed for farmers, but you also have to be very technical and spend a lot of time trying to market your products. And I'm in this process of switching to a website that's frankly about the same to host, but they've got a much greater support staff. But making that switch is taking a lot of time as well. I've tried to find someone that I could pay part-time to help sort out some of these website issues. So far, I haven't had any luck. If you're passionate about regenerative farming, local food production, are organized and can kind of be self-motivated to sort through some of these processes, let me know. Email me at rob@DowdleFamilyFarms. Maybe we can work something out. When I was getting 4 to 5 million views a month on YouTube, I thought I could sell more pork and ship it. And maybe I can if I up my marketing game and figure out the website problem. I've got somewhere to be and I've got to go pack this order this afternoon, so I'm going to close out this video. If you're wanting to farm or wanting to try anything new, the best advice that I can give you is go for it. But don't be overly optimistic. Don't be overly pessimistic. And figure out a way to solve the problems. Be very realistic. Most importantly, I want to thank you all for supporting our farm, even if all you're doing is watching the videos for fun. If you've joined the channel, or if you're one of the handful of people that have purchased our pork products, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time. Thank you for taking the time to watch these videos, some of which I know are incredibly boring. I got the dry ice for the package, but I ran out of tape. So I'm going to go print the label, get some more tape, and then take it to the UPS store. I don't know if you can tell it, but I just got pulled over for having an expired tag. I forgot to put the new tag on the vehicle here.